Hello kids, this is Mr. Whistler with your video lesson of the day, and today we will be talking about the war with Mexico. We have one vocabulary word today, and the word is cede. And there's a few different forms of the word. You could say ceded, you could say cession, but the official is to give up by treaty. It is where one country gives land to another country. This blue right here, during the Mexican-American War, Mexico ceded this land to the United States. It was called the Mexican Cession. Significance: it makes a country larger. Alright, war with Mexico. President Polk wanted New Mexico and California. Having them would guarantee a clear passage to the Pacific. But more importantly, President Polk was a manifest destiny guy, and if we got this land right here, it would help us achieve our manifest destiny. Remember, we had a divine obligation to take control of the land from the Atlantic all the way to the Pacific. And that was Polk's main reason for wanting them. He wanted to fulfill the United States' manifest destiny. Well, and he also saw California and New Mexico as rightfully belonging to the U.S. I mean, it only made sense. It was up here in our area, so we should get it. And it didn't matter who owned it. That was kind of the thinking of the time period for those who believed in manifest destiny. Well, Polk tried to buy the land first, and Mexico didn't want to sell it, and they said no. So Polk got it in his mind that he was going to take it anyway, and he plotted to get the two territories through war. But he could not start it. The United States couldn't start the war. First of all, he's the president, and he would have been looked down upon if he started a war with Mexico. And secondly, it would have been against the law for him to tell the army to go in there and start a war. Congress is the only one that can declare war. So he had to figure out a way to get Mexico to start it. Now, there were already strained relations between Mexico and the United States over Texas. Mexico never really recognized Texas's independence because after that treaty was signed way back when, Santa Anna was overthrown soon after the deal was made, and the new Mexican leaders said that they didn't recognize Texas as their own country, but the people of Texas said it was too late. So for 10 years, Texas was its own country, and then it got annexed into the United States, and Mexico said the annexation was illegal. Another issue between Texas and Mexico was where the actual border between Texas and Mexico was. The United States claimed that the border was along the Rio Grande, right here. Mexico claimed the border was on the Nueces River, right here. So the United States thought their land went all the way to here, so they thought they owned this. But Mexico thought their land went all the way to here, so they thought they owned this. So this purple area is disputed land. Both countries think they own it. Well, President Polk tried to buy California one more time, a second time, and he sweetened the deal a little bit. Now, the Mexican government owed the United States a lot of money from debt. And so he offered the Mexican government $30 million for California and New Mexico. He would also take over, they would also take over Mexico's debt from the American citizens if Mexico agreed that the Texas border be at the Rio Grande. So they wanted these two territories, plus they wanted all this land. And they were going to offer them $30 million plus whatever they owed in debt. And Mexico said no again. Well, this time Polk was ready, and he decided to enact his plan. So in response, Polk ordered Zachary Taylor, his head general, to march his soldiers across the disputed borderland between the Neusis and the Rio Grande and start building a fort. So he built a fort where there's blue X's. And, well, the Mexican soldiers thought that was Mexican land, and when they saw the United States Army building the fort, what do you think their reaction was? Polk hoped this would provoke the Mexican soldiers to attack them. And if they did, this would be grounds for war. Well, the Mexican soldiers did attack Zachary Taylor's forces. So, according to Polk, Mexico had invaded our territory and shed American blood on American soil. American blood has been spilled on American soil. Okay, I'll tell President Polk. So Zachary Taylor sent word back that Mexican forces had attacked American forces. So President Polk used as grounds for war, Mexican forces had attacked American forces. This was enough, and Congress declared war on Mexico. Well, Polk had a war plan, and it had three parts to it. First of all, he was going to drive the Mexicans out of Texas, and he was going to secure the Texas-Mexico border along the Rio Grande. That was the easiest part of the war plan, and they achieved that pretty quickly. The second part of his plan was to seize New Mexico and California, and that was going to be a little bit harder because there was so much land out there. But there were key cities that they needed to take, and they were able to do that. Now, the third and hardest part of his plan was to take Mexico City, the Mexican capital, and it was way down south. So they had to travel through hostile lands, and Mexico City was very fortified, but they went down there and took Mexico City eventually. This war lasted about 2 years, and the United States won the war. Now, after the war, in 1848, they signed the peace treaty called the Treaty of Guadalupe, Hidalgo. And the treaty said that Mexico gave up all claims to Texas. And the border between Texas and Mexico would be on the Rio Grande. Mexico ceded California and New Mexico to the United States, and this was called the Mexican Cession. The United States ended up giving Mexico $15 million. So that was pretty much it. In 1853, the United States paid Mexico an additional $10 million for a strip of land along the southern edge of the present-day states of Arizona and New Mexico, which was called the Gadsden Purchase. And that piece of land enabled the United States mainland to reach its present-day size. And they achieved their manifest destiny. They took control of the land from the Atlantic to the Pacific. So the results of the war. The United States lost almost 2,000 men to battle and more than 11,000 to disease. So they had pretty harsh conditions down there. Mexico's losses were much greater. So, I don't know, Mexico, the United States lost 13,000 men, so Mexico had to lose more than that. So, the war cost the United States $100 million. The war cost Mexico half of its territory, which helped the United States achieve their concept of manifest destiny. Now I want to look at these numbers for a little bit. Remember, originally the United States asked Mexico to sell these two territories plus Texas for $30 million. They end up getting $15 million for that land. I wonder, and so they got less. They had a lot of loss of life to pay for it. The United States wanted to pay $30 million, and it ended up costing them $100 million. So the question is, who was right? Was Mexico right in not selling, even though they lost all those people and they lost the land anyway, or was the United States right in taking the land because they thought it belonged to them anyway, because it was their manifest destiny to have it? It was their divine obligation to take control of the land. Well, I wonder how those negotiations went when the United States was trying to buy it. Usually when they have negotiations, somebody's going to write down everything that was said. So in the official meeting, the negotiator for the United States probably didn't say a whole lot, but I wonder if he took them behind closed doors afterwards where nobody could record anything and said, this is off the record, but if you better take our deal or we're going to take the land anyway. I wonder if they did that. I think if I was the negotiator, I might have done something like that to try to avoid the loss of life that would happen with war. So if you're the president of Mexico, you're kind of in a tough position. I mean, your job is to protect the people. So if the United States says they want to buy it and you don't, then you go to war, so all your people are going to be dead. But really, it's your right not to sell it if you don't want to sell it. It's your land. And, what do? Probably after the fact, if you knew what was going to happen, you probably would take the price. So I don't know. Tough decision for the president. But another thing we talked about is what would have happened, how would things be different today if the United States would have taken over all of Mexico and just annexed all of Mexico into the United States. Maybe we wouldn't have as many border disputes as we have today, because there would be no borders, because Mexico would be part of the United States. Interesting thing to think about. All right, today's notebook. You guys are going to get a map. You need to color it and match up your colors with the key. So you guys can use these colors or you can use your own, but Mexico after 1849 would be one color down here. Territory lost by Mexico in 1848 would be this color. Texan territory in dispute is the middle section right here, and then the Texas between 1836 and 1848 is right here. So I want you to answer these 4 questions, and I want you to draw this picture of the scene where Zachary Taylor's men are building the fort. And then your writing is this. Write a paragraph explaining which country you think was right. Was the United States right in the way they got the land from Mexico, or was Mexico right in refusing to sell the land to the United States? Back up your answer. Well, that's it, kids, and complete your note taker and have a nice day.